David Ellis from SkillsDMC. He's going to talk about integrating ANTS into accredited training and assessment program. David works for the National Skills Council in New South Wales, and they have recognised the value of ANTS. The SkillsDMC ANTS journey has lessons for all training and education providers.
G'day everyone, good to see you here today. I want to talk about getting traction, and we're talking about that kind of traction where the rubber meets the road, just to be clear. What can be done to develop ANTS in the workplace? What can be done to embed these competencies within day-to-day routine work practices? This is the challenge. Listening to conversations this morning and in visiting mining enterprises as I do regularly, what I find is that these 5 competencies are already being practiced in the workplace, and in some cases very effectively. In other instances, we have training organisations coming in delivering non-accredited training in leadership or communication skills to all levels of the organisation. If we look back at the training history of the coal sector and extractive industry, we see that these 5 competencies have been trained, have been spoken of, are written in one form or another, somewhere or another, and they already exist, and in fact, in some cases, are practiced as best practice. In the past, they were known as employability skills, soft skills. They've been incorporated into the new foundation skills training package, and some would argue somewhat submerged within that package. You'll find them in the RII09 units of competency and qualifications. They're there by one name or another. The question is where they are implicit, where they are diffused through a training process, where they are made reference to within risk management processes. How do we make them more explicit? How do we formalise these competencies so that we can better focus on their development and their association to technical skills? And I think that's the challenge that we're facing today. It's not do we do it or don't we do it, it's how should we do it in the future? How do we capture everything we are doing and doing so well and put it within this simple model, within this simple framework, so that it can be associated to non-technical skills, so that these practices can be improved and can be reinforced and can be assessed, and people can be made accountable for their application. That's the challenge as I see it today. How do we get this traction, moving from concept to application, from awareness to practice, from the peripheral or the submerged or the implicit to the central focus of work practice, where these things are explicit, visible, focused on and reinforced? How do we move from the optional to the accountable? I want to propose 3 steps that we can take to do this. First, we need to engage. When engaging an RTO, we need to specify referencing to ANTS. Second, participate. The enterprise needs to participate in the design of the training, to associate these non-technical skills to tasks, and then to assess this association in practice. This is a preliminary stage. This is a design phase. This is getting the setting right before we do the training and carry out the assessment. The third thing that you can do is propose the integration of ANTS as a suite of competencies into the RII09 training package if required by industry. I want to unpack those 3 things. Let's start with engage. Our experience is that enterprises are still learning how to engage an RTO to deliver training effectively. Maybe I can say it another way. Not a lot of attention has been paid to how we engage the RTO, contract the RTO, monitor their performance, review their performance, and redirect them if they're missing the mark. I think the responsibility for the delivery of ANTS within the training regime starts with the enterprise, not with tick and flick to the RTO, leaving it to them and considering them to be the experts. It ain't necessarily so. So we need to look at our practices for setting the terms and the scope of our contract with the RTO. What is it that we want them to do in our workplace? This engagement isn't simply about delivering a training program or assessing competency. It's about delivering competency at the workface. That's the end result of training. That's the outcome, as well as skilling the individual to work safely and competently at the tasks they're given. So there are some key questions that we need to ask at this engagement stage, at the early outset of selecting, appointing, and working with the RTO. Is the RTO aware of ANTS? I've heard some comment today, people saying, well, it's the first time I've heard about this. I'm just now beginning to understand it. What is it? That question is still being asked widely through the mining and the extractive sector. What are these things? The second question, what capability does the RTO have to reference ANTS within the training? By capability of the RTO, what I'm asking here is where the trainer and assessor has highly evolved technical skills that they can transfer to the learner and assess, do they have an equal understanding of these 5 competencies we call ANTS? Are they able to demonstrate these competencies during the training process? Are they able to answer questions about these competencies during the training process? Are they able to correct behaviours that are not in line with these competencies? Are they able to show an application of these competencies to the technical skills during the training process? Is the RTO capable of referencing ANTS within the training? Now, leadership, teamwork, decision-making, communication come quite naturally to the workplace because of the pressures that are applied in the working environment. People gravitate towards teamwork. That's the way we are. We're tribal creatures. People make decisions every moment of every day and every action. People communicate. We have to. We learn to do that. Somebody shows leadership when the time is required. And I like what I heard earlier on this morning talking about leadership, that it's as simple as getting someone to speak up. That's an act of leadership. There is still a confusion between functional authority and leadership as a response to a challenge. There's been a question for years, are we born leaders or does leadership emerge in a vacuum? Whatever it is, we need leadership at every level of the organisation, in every circumstance and situation, big and small. Leadership is leading the way when you see the way from where you stand. That's it. Now, most trainers practice these 4 competencies. That's how they get the job done. But the difficult one is situation awareness. This is an ambiguous, hazy, vague sort of a notion of an idea. What is it? How do I write that down? How do I hold that? Which button do I push for that one? Without situation awareness, leadership, teamwork, decision-making, communication can be rendered helpless, misguided, unfortunate. Situation awareness is the underpinning competency here for all the rest to operate successfully within the workplace. And how then do we train situational awareness? How is this communicated? How is it transferred from the trainer to the learner? How do we get a handle on this? Well, I'd suggest that situational awareness begins by understanding how a system works. When I sit in front of my computer sometimes, a new system has been introduced. I won't tell you what I say, but it's a new program. I won't tell you how I feel about that. But at first it's confusing. You've all had this experience. What is this? What's the acronym? Huh? Write that down, learn that one. It's going to take me days to get my head into this new space. How many people feel that way at work when they're operating a complex piece of machinery or a new piece of plant's brought onto the job and it works a little differently, the gearbox runs different in the haul truck than the last one I drove? How does this work? That's the first question to be answered for situational awareness. How does this work? The second thing for situational awareness is a history of failure with that system. What's happened in the past with this plant or equipment? How has it failed before? How did that come about? Tell me that story. I need that story to understand. I need that story to think ahead. I need that story. I'm a carpenter and joiner by trade. I did my time in the New South Wales building construction industry. And I remember one day having a conversation with a backhoe operator. I was down in the trench holding the rod, he was digging the dirt out, and I remember having this conversation with him and about his machine. And I asked him what it was like driving this machine in the mud and the rain, and so he said, well, I don't really know. He said, I just listen to her. I listen to her all day. And it's by what I hear that I know that everything's okay and we're going well. I just listen to her. How good is that? That's understanding the piece of equipment that you're running. So in tune, so at one with the equipment that there's an intuitive understanding, a situation awareness. Then we move on to scenarios and practicing scenarios. What happens if? And finally, we can emerge with a strong sense of situation awareness. Being able to watch, being able to think ahead, being able perhaps to anticipate what might happen if there's a degradation of the system. My question is this: what trainer in which RTO today now has the capacity or the capability to deliver that within the training? That's the challenge. That's where we sit. RTOs do a great job in New South Wales. Over 75% of enterprises within the resource and infrastructure industry are very, very satisfied with RTO training and assessment delivery. They're doing a good job. And business is happy about that. Very little discontent. I'm looking here at a skills gap with an RTO capability that can be the risk of failure for this whole initiative. We must be sure that RTOs, we must be sure at our point of engagement that we know that the RTO has the capability to deliver these competencies in association to non-technical skills while they train in non-technical skills. Sorry, technical skills. Are you listening? Thank you. Another question: how will the RTO assess ANTS following the training? There's a difficult one. These are questions that we can't answer today, but they're questions that need to be asked. And one of the fundamental issues here is, do we separate these 5 competencies into 2-day workshops or top-up courses or revision processes or do we integrate them somehow into the training activity? And if so, how do we do that? How is the RTO to reference ANTS in the training and assessment process? How are they to do that? I think the view that may be shared generally is that ANTS needs to be integrated into training and assessment in association to the technical skills, not separate or apart from them. Effective learning takes place when it has context. Effective learning takes place within experience. And a lot of the people who work in our industry learn by doing, by seeing. They're active learners, they're visual learners. So we need to think about the learning styles of people within our industry and how we can best transfer competencies to those people within the workplace. These are questions for the RTO and for the enterprise to discuss when sorting out the engagement, coming into a training plan, thinking about how they're going to do it, where they're going to do it, and what the outcomes are they want to see. Following engagement, there's participation. To gain traction for ANTS within industry and enterprise, enterprises can participate in designing the training to associate the non-technical skills to tasks and then to assess this in association with the practice in the workplace. It would be very interesting to carry out a survey of line management, really even just simply against the language we use in the vet system. Do you know what this means? ASQA, NSSC. Do you know what a training package is? Do you know what a unit of competency is? An element. Assessment criteria. Those of us from the vet sector, we have a coded language and we use it everywhere we go. We do vet speak. When we go into the enterprise and talk to line management, they have a different language culture. So part of the problem in this engagement issue and in the participation issue is management understanding what the vet people are saying and vet people understanding what management are saying. And when I say management, I mean all the way to general management, all site management, all management that has responsibility for operations. Do they understand the structure of a training package? Do they understand units of competency? Do they understand contextualisation? Do they understand how it all works and fits together? Do they understand validation of assessment? Do they know what this is? Or is this just the secret language of the RTO? The industry speak for the vet sector to keep everyone else out, John. Is it? I thought you'd know. I'm trying to put my finger on something here that's a barrier to the integration of ANTS into the workplace, into industry. Part of that barrier is the language we use when we're speaking to management and what we're speaking about and what they need to be looking at to support an RTO contract for training delivery. Line management needs to have an understanding of competency and competency-based training and the results it can bring. Line managers need to demonstrate ANTS in their behaviours on a day-to-day basis. How are behaviours learnt by little children? Do you know? They're learnt by imitation. Mums don't have a flip chart. Dads don't use DVDs and training resources and manuals and assessment criteria for kids. They imitate. And this is the primary mechanism of learning. It's imitating. A baby learns to smile by watching you smile and practicing the smile. We need to bring our line management and supervision into a full understanding of these competencies and require them to demonstrate them in the workplace on a day-to-day basis. There are enterprises in the Hunter now who are writing the 5 ANTS competencies into their job descriptions and reviewing them in the performance review process. Not sure how they're developed, not sure how they're assessed, but at least we've gone that far now where they're being recognised formally as required skills for management. When participating with the RTO, be sure to describe the site-specific requirements to the RTO. Work with the RTO to contextualise units of competency to site-specific requirements. Map assessment tools to contextualise units of competency. Participate in planning assessments to ensure right conditions and the desired results. But most of all, as the enterprise engaging the RTO, focus on the assessment tools, the assessment process and the assessment outcomes. This is where the rubber really meets the road. Did the training give an outcome? Has it worked for the candidate? Does it work for the workplace? It's focusing on the assessment end. In vet speak, we call this validation of assessment. And this is something that's emerging within the Department of Education Communities New South Wales as a practice that will be emphasised. Department of Education Community New South Wales are about to embark on 3 pilots to test a validation model. Now, validation is a quality assurance check in the training process that looks at the assessment tool to ensure that it meets the requirements of the unit of competency, but also the requirements of the workplace, that the competency is being delivered through the training. And the model that's being looked at the moment is a consensus model or a consultation model. That being that RTOs will be required to meet with industry and enterprise to review the assessment tool and validate it as being aligned to the unit of competency and capable of delivering the outcome in the workplace. This is a new model that's being piloted over the next 12 months or so. So at some time down the line, there will be some kind of a policy announcement and a guidebook on validation of assessment, how this is to be done, and some accountabilities on how that should be done. But what I'm putting to you today is this, that when you, as the enterprise participates with the RTO in designing the training, contextualising units of competency to site-specific requirements, mapping assessment tools, participating in planning assessments, focus on the assessment tools, the assessment process and the assessment outcomes. This is the delivery end. That's where we need to look, validating the assessment tools. Are ANTS mentioned by name or implicit within the unit of competency? This is a tension within the existing training package. You'll find ANTS almost in every unit of competency somewhere submerged or by name or another name. They are implicit, they are there. Do they need to be made more explicit, more clearer, more visible? Are ANTS given visibility during the training and within the assessment performance checklist? Let's go on to the last one, propose. Is integration with the RII training package required? Jury is still out on this question. This is really a question for you, for industry, what you think. SkillsDMC is driven by industry, not by its internal policy or what it thinks it should be doing, or by staff consensus or by management. We're driven by industry through industry engagement. So the question for industry is, do ANTS already exist within the RII training package? Do they? Some people say yes, others say no. How are they put together? Do they need to be integrated into units of competency? Do they need to be spoken of, referred to in the assessment end, or are they described in the companion guide? You know, where is this all to sit? We're at a very emergent stage at the moment of working this out, but it's over to you. If ANTS are not within the RII training package, then how would they be integrated into that training package? How would you do that? Some months ago, the New South Wales Minerals Council put the integration of ANTS into the RII training package on the issues register. Everything starts with the issues register. That's the mandate for SkillsDMC to have a look at the issue that industry has raised and give a response. It's the issues register. So what can you do if you want to progress this within the RII training package, which is right now being streamlined? What should you do? You can go to the SkillsDMC website, you can go to the issues register, you can look up the comment made by the New South Wales Minerals Council, and you can start to blog, spam the issues register, putting your thoughts there, debating the issues, putting there what you think should be done, arguing for a case, whatever it is you want to say, put it on the issues register. No good in an email to me. I don't have any authority to deal with it. It all starts with the issues register. Get your thoughts there. SkillsDMC will acknowledge the issue, and already have. The issue will be referred to a sector standing committee nationally to determine a response. That sector standing committee may provide an immediate response for action. If it's a complex issue affecting vocational outcomes, an experts panel or reference group will be formed, and you can register with SkillsDMC today as an expert. You can do that on the website as an expert in this area. If changes are required, the program will be set up and we'll move ahead. Thank you very much.